They were like two mirror images, exactly the same, and at the same time, frighteningly different. June and Jennifer were born just 10 minutes apart, but their bond seemed much deeper than just a blood relationship. They spoke in a language that no one understood, and they moved at the same time, like marionettes in the hands of an invisible puppeteer. The world around them seemed like a background, unimportant noise. Their world was just for the two of them. And this world became a cage. Over time, communication between them turned into a strange ritual. June and Jennifer withdrew into themselves, and then one of them made a frightening decision to sacrifice herself to free the other. Why did they withdraw into themselves? What was going on in their secret world? How could one of them decide that death was the only way to escape? And what eventually happened to the one who stayed? This is a story about how a strong bond can become a curse. And sometimes, love can be scarier than hate. June and Jennifer Gibbons were born in April 1963 in a military town in the south of the Arabian Peninsula. They look like ordinary twins, absolutely healthy. They and their mother, Gloria, were discharged home just a few days after giving birth. But that was just the beginning of a strange and frightening story. The girls grew up quiet, almost unnoticeable. They were so calm that the parents decided to fulfill their long-held dream of moving. Gloria, the girls' mother, became a housewife, fully devoting herself to children and home, and her father, Aubrey, worked as a technician in the Air Force. However, the Gibbons soon began to notice that something was wrong with their daughters. As time passed, June and Jennifer remained silent. They didn't talk to their parents or the other children. Fear shackled the family. Gloria and Aubrey began to suspect something terrible. Their daughters were mute, but the doctors destroyed their guesses. After the examination, it became clear that the girls were not deprived of the ability to speak. They had a slight speech defect, but it did not explain their silence. Moreover, June and Jennifer understood English perfectly and could react to it. And then, as if succumbing to someone's sinister persuasion, the girls began to talk. But their words sounded like a chill on the parents' skin. Their speech didn't sound like normal human speech. Her parents compared it to the chirping of birds abrupt fast, like the crackle of wings or the chirp of insects. No one understood this strange, almost inhuman language. No one but themselves. The girls communicated with each other in completely incomprehensible sounds and whispers, and increasingly moved away from the world home. They talked to each other using strange sounds unlike ordinary speech, recalled Aubrey, their father. We knew they weren't like other kids. There was something alien about them. Years later, one of the psychiatrists interested in this strange phenomenon decided to record their conversation on a dictaphone. He listened to the recording over and over again, in slow motion, as if deciphering a coded message. And at some point, I realized June and Jennifer were talking in English. Only very fast, almost inhumanly fast. Their speech was like a cipher, a riddle that only the two of them had the key to. Doctors believed that this phenomenon could be a sign of high intelligence. But the more adults tried to get into this world, the more it seemed that it was inaccessible. And there's something dark hiding in those quick, bird-like whispers. Over the years, the oddities only intensified. June and Jennifer were increasingly self-contained. It was as if they were creating their own world. The parents tried to wake them up, talked, asked, begged, but it was too late. June and Jennifer lived only for each other. In adolescence, girls still refused to speak English. They stopped responding to their names, did not read books, did not write, even if they were asked to do so. It seemed that English was someone else's code, which they had lost access to. And their own language was encrypted, as if it protected their world from invasion. But that wasn't the scariest part. Sometimes, June and Jennifer would start moving at the same time for no apparent reason. It was as if one was controlling the other, or both, by an invisible thread that connected them. One turned her head, and at the same second, with frightening precision, the second repeated this movement. They could simultaneously blink, clench their fists, and bend over. Even the most persistent adults couldn't hide their trembling when they saw how the girls turned their heads in unison, like puppets subject to one will. Some said it was a joke. Others say it's bullying others. But everyone understood that this was not normal. School was hell for them. June and Jennifer were the only black children in the class. They were teased, called names, humiliated. The teachers even started letting them out before anyone else after class, just to make sure that none of the students had time to ambush them. They kept their pain, their hatred, and their fears in their diaries. These diaries became their confessions, and sometimes their manifestos. One day she will wake up and become me, and one day I'll wake up and be her. We say to each other, "Give me back yourself. And if you give yourself back to me, I'll give you back to you." Where does one sister end and the other begin? Where is the boundary between them, or has there never been one? Even the doctors were shocked by their behavior. During a routine school medical checkup, Dr. John Reese noticed something strange. The girls did not respond to injections, to touches, to words. They sat like dolls with empty eyes, as if disconnected from reality. He sounded the alarm and begged the director to pay attention to this frightening incident. But the director just shrugged his shoulders. No one realized then how far this story had gone, and no one could have predicted how it would all end. June and Jennifer Gibbons have spent most of their lives under medical supervision. It was as if they were a mystery that no one could solve. There were many diagnoses, but none of them explained what was happening between the sisters. Their bond was too strange, too tight, too frightening. She wasn't just strong, she was like a chain chained between two people. Psychologists have been trying to find a way to break this vicious circle. It was necessary to somehow break their dependence on each other, to teach them to live separately, to socialize, to speak, to feel the world around them. And then one day, in the hope of progress, they were prescribed therapy on horses. It would seem that what could be more harmless than equestrian sports? But it was there, at one of the training sessions, that something happened that made the adults shudder. One of the sisters, June, suddenly fell from her horse. And at the same moment, as if an invisible hand had pulled a string, Jennifer also collapsed to the ground, synchronously, for no reason. Without explanation, it was no longer a coincidence. It was a connection that was frightening in its depth. No one in the world suffers like my sister and me. People can live with husbands, children, and friends, but they will never experience what we feel. My sister, like a giant shadow, steals the sunlight from me and becomes the center of all my torments, June wrote in her diary. For the doctors, this was an ominous signal. In one of the reports, the doctor made a note, "June is obsessed with the twin." And then, it seemed, a solution had been found. The girls need to be separated. To break this strange, painful union, the parents were advised to transfer them to different boarding schools. And Gloria and Aubrey did it. But what happened next shocked everyone. Instead of relief, the girls went into catatonic shock. Their bodies became sluggish, lifeless. They did not respond to words, to touch, to the world around them. This state was similar to the coma into which the two of them plunged, but apart from each other. Terrified of the consequences, the parents were forced to return the girls home. And then a terrible thing happened. June and Jennifer locked themselves in their room and did not leave it for 2 years. Their world has narrowed down to 4 walls. Inside this room, they found their strange, frightening harmony again and cut themselves off from everyone else again. In 1977, Anne Trehorn, a doctor, took over the supervision of the sisters. She was tormented by one question: who is the main one? Who is the leader? And who is the subordinate? And over time, watching their whispers, glances, and movements, she came to an alarming conclusion. Jennifer was manipulating June. But what was it? The simple domination of one sister over another, or something darker? Perhaps Jennifer really was a puppet master, keeping her sister on strings. Or maybe it was an ominous contract that no one but the two of them knew about. Their strange obsession continued to grow, and everyone knew it would end in something terrible. The story was heading towards a denouement from which it was impossible to look away. When everyone had lost hope of reaching the twins, journalist Marjorie Wallace appeared. She managed to enter their world, to become the only one they accepted. One day Jennifer said something scary to her. "Marjorie, I'm going to die." What do you mean? My sister and I have signed a contract. Jennifer explained that in order for one of them to live, the other must leave. The choice fell on her. In March 1993, while being transferred to a new psychiatric hospital, Jennifer suddenly fell into a coma and died. Doctors found only acute myocarditis, a rare disease that is almost not found in healthy 29-year-old women. Before that, her heart was healthy. June, always silent, began to speak clearly and openly. In her diary, she wrote, "My beloved sister Jennifer died today. Her heart stopped beating. She'll never know me. I kissed her stone face. I became hysterical. But Marjorie," she said, "we're free now." June wrote a poem in memory of her sister. "There were two of us once. We were one. But there aren't two of us anymore. Be alone in life. Rest in peace." In the interview, June blamed the doctors, believing that they killed Jennifer with drugs. When asked why they had been silent for 29 years, she answered terribly simply, "We have concluded a contract. June is 58 years old now. She lived alone, was even in a civil marriage, but returned to her parents." Her speech is still difficult to understand, and the main question remains unanswered. How did they communicate? What connected them? Why did Jennifer die? This mystery has remained unsolved. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more dark and gripping stories ahead.